Well, Europe has witnessed heat waves before, but the summer of 2026 is turning into something far more dangerous. A continent-wide climate emergency that is affecting everything from drinking water to agriculture, tourism, forest, and even economic growth. Across the continent, temperatures have repeatedly crossed 40 degrees Celsius, rivers are shrinking, reservoirs are drying up, and forests that once acted as Europe's green shield are now feeding massive wildfires. While southern Europe battles flames stretching across thousands of hectares, England, a country better known for rain than drought, is running short of water. Well, scientists now say this is no longer just another hot summer. It is a glimpse of what a warming planet looks like. So why is Europe facing such an intense heat wave? Why has more than half of England entered drought conditions? Why are France and Spain witnessing some of their worst wildfire season? And what is the economic price Europe is paying? Well, come along and let's answer all of it in today's edition of From the News Desk. For decades, England has been associated with cloudy skies and frequent rainfall. Yet this year, the picture is completely different. More than half of England has officially been declared under drought after months of exceptionally low rainfall combined with repeated spells of extreme heat wave. Reservoirs, rivers, and groundwater levels have fallen sharply, forcing authorities to monitor water supplies closely and consider stricter conservation measures. In fact, the drought has affected major parts of southern and central England, including London and the Thames Valley. Now, the reason is very simple. Rainfall has remained far below normal while temperatures have remained unusually high. This intense heat has accelerated evaporation from rivers, lakes, and reservoirs. At the same time, dry soil absorbs less water, making it harder for groundwater supplies to recover even when rain eventually arrives. For farmers as well, the situation is becoming increasingly worrying. Dry field means lower crop yield, higher irrigation cost, and growing uncertainty over food production. Now remember, wildlife is also under stress as rivers shrink and marine life struggles in warmer, oxygen-poor water. For many, drought, which was considered a problem of Mediterranean countries, in 2026 it has become Britain's reality. If England's biggest concern is water scarcity, France and Spain are confronting another disaster: massive wildfires. Weeks of scorching temperatures, low humidity, and dry vegetation have created ideal conditions for fires to spread rapidly. In southern West France, one of the country's biggest wildfire has burned around 42,000 hectares, roughly 4 times the size of Paris. Thousands of firefighters supported by aircraft have been deployed as authorities evacuate hundreds of thousands of people from threatened areas. Now, Spain has faced a similarly grim situation. Wildfires have swept through areas like Madrid, Avila, and Castellón, destroying forests, damaging homes, and forcing large-scale evacuations. Well, authorities have warned that recurring heat waves are increasing the likelihood of more fires during this very summers. And more worryingly, fires are not isolated incidents. Across southern Europe, including Greece, Italy, and Turkey, firefighters have been stretched to their limits. So what is actually driving these increasingly intense heat waves? Well, scientists point to a combination of natural weather patterns and long-term climate change. A persistent high-pressure system has settled over much of western and southern Europe. These so-called heat domes trap hot air close to the surface while preventing cooler air and rain-bearing weather systems from entering the region. And without clouds or rainfall, the ground continues heating day after day. And the problem becomes even worse because dry soil contains very little moisture. Then comes climate change, which has amplified this very cycle. As greenhouse gas concentrates increase, Europe's average temperatures continue to rise. Every additional degree of warming makes heat wave more frequent, long-lasting, and more intense. Now, more worryingly, Europe is now warming at roughly twice the global average, making it one of the fastest warming regions on Earth according to scientific assessments. That means weather events that were once considered rare are becoming increasingly common. Now, one of the most worrying aspects of Europe's current crisis is how each disaster fuels the next one. The sequence begins with prolonged heat, higher temperatures increasing evaporation, reduced rainfall dries rivers and reservoirs, dry soil weakens crops and forests, vegetation becomes highly flammable, and then one spark, whether from lightning, machinery, or human activity, can ignite massive fires. And the fires then release enormous amount of smoke and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, further worsening air quality and contributing to global warming. Well, the result is a vicious cycle. Heat creates drought, drought feeds wildfire, wildfire intensify climate change, and climate change then increases the likelihood of even more severe heat waves in the future. Well, scientists increasingly describe these events as compound climate extremes because multiple disasters occur together rather than separately. Now, the impact extends far beyond forests. Extreme heat affects nearly every aspect of daily life. Older adults, children, and people with existing medical conditions face greater risk of heat exhaustion, dehydration, and heat stroke. In fact, hospitals often see increased admission during prolonged heat wave periods like we witnessed just right now. In fact, outdoor workers including construction crew, farm laborers, and emergency responders must either reduce working hours or face dangerous consequences. In fact, transportation systems are also affected. Rail tracks can expand in high temperatures, forcing trains to slow down. Road surfaces soften, air travel experiences disruption because aircraft performances changes during extreme heat. In fact, electricity demand also rises sharply as millions switch on fans and air conditioning. This places additional pressure on already strained power grids. Now let's be very clear, heat waves are no longer only an environmental problem. They have become a major economic challenge. According to multiple analysts, repeated extreme heat reduces worker productivity, particularly in three sectors, which are agriculture, construction, and manufacturing. But not only these three sectors, tourism also suffers. While Mediterranean beaches traditionally attract millions of summer visitors, temperatures crossing 40 degrees Celsius are discouraging travelers to certain destinations. And at the same time, wildfires have forced evacuation, disrupted holidays, and damaged hotels, vineyards, and tourism infrastructure in multiple nations. Then comes the most worrying part, agriculture, which also faces multiple pressures. As I mentioned, lower crop yields means reduced farm income and potentially higher food prices. Now, amid all this, governments are spending billions on emergency firefighting operations, disaster relief, infrastructure repairs, and public health measures. Insurance companies are also paying more claims for wildfire damage, property destruction, and business interruption. Now, looking at all this, financial analysts increasingly warn that climate-related disasters are becoming a drag on Europe's economic growth, affecting labor productivity, agriculture, tourism, insurance costs, and public finances. Perhaps the biggest question is whether summers like this will become routine. Well, many climate scientists believe Europe is entering an era where prolonged heat waves are no longer exceptional events. Instead, they could become regular features of the continent's climate. That means governments will need to invest heavily in climate adaptation. And this includes expanding water storage, improving drought planning, redesigning cities with more greener space, strengthening wildfire prevention, protecting forests, and most importantly, modernizing infrastructure to withstand extreme temperatures. Now, without adaptation, every future heat wave could become even more costly. Well, the summer of 2026 has transformed Europe's climate conversation. England is battling drought despite its reputation for rain. France and Spain are fighting enormous wildfires that have consumed vast areas of forest and forced mass evacuation. Well, across the continent, extreme heat is disrupting agriculture, tourism, public health, and economic activities as well. And these events are not isolated disasters. They are connected by a warming climate that is making heat waves more frequent, droughts more severe, and wildfires more destructive. For Europe, the challenge is no longer simply surviving one difficult summer. It is about preparing for a future in which extreme heat may become an increasingly permanent part of their life. Well, with that, it's a wrap on today's edition of From the News Desk. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm Yash Goyal signing off for Times Now Digital. Until next time, take care and keep watching this space for more such videos.